Hi class, welcome to this video on 4.1, 4.2 ratios and rates review. In this video I'm going to go over some of the questions from your last homework assignment and you can use that to help you make any corrections you need to make. And then I'm going to go over a few of the questions that are from your new assignment. All of this to help you prepare for a quiz which is fast approaching. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at a couple of pre-skills. One of the most important pre-skills you're going to need is how to solve a proportion. Okay, and a proportion is when you have two or more ratios that are equal to each other. And if you recall, a fraction is just another way of writing a ratio. The other way you can think of this is that we are actually writing equivalent fractions and we're finding one of the missing values. Either way you think about it, the process for solving it is the same. And in fact, there are several ways you could solve this kind of problem, but we're going to stick with what we've been doing and what I think many of you have begun to feel comfortable with, and I think is actually the easiest method for solving these kinds of problems. So the first thing we do when we get a question like this, we're going to draw an x. And we're drawing this x because it tells us which terms are going to be multiplying by each other. And so what this means is 20 is going to multiply by u, and that's going to be equal to 36 times 5. And as a habit, I want us to try and always write the variable on the left-hand side because that's where we want it to end up by the end. And so I would get 20u is equal to 36 times 5. And once I have this equation, I can now simplify the right-hand side by doing 36 times 5. And I get 20u is equal to 180. And this is now just basic one-step algebra. I have 20 times u. I'm trying to get u by itself. Multiply by 20 is in the way, and so I divide both sides by 20. And I'll try and be consistent with this, so I divide both sides by 20, and then u, because this 20 becomes 1 and I don't need to write 1 times u, and now I do 180 divided by 20 and I get 9. U is equal to 9. Alright, same process over here. Draw the lines, the x. And this means that I'm going to multiply 2 times d. I'm going to multiply 5 times 24. I get 2d. I simplify the right-hand side. 5 times 24 gives me 120. I'm trying to get d by itself. Multiply by 2 is in the way, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And d is going to be equal to 60. If you understand that, you can fast forward, as I'm just going to do 2 more examples so you can see it where the variable has changed its position. The process is essentially the same, but if you understand, scrub forward and then you can work on the next part of the video. So for this one, again, I'm going to draw the triangle. I do 21k is equal to 3 times 49. I can then simplify the right-hand side of the equation. I get 21k is equal to 147. I divide both sides by 21. That isolates k because 21 divided by 21 is 1. 1k, I can just write k. 147 divided by 21 gives me the answer of 7. Same process again over here. I draw my triangle, or my x, and I multiply 90 by e, and I multiply 6 by 15. I can then simplify what is on the right-hand side. 6 times 15 gives me 90. 90 equals 90. I'm trying to get e all by itself, so I can divide both sides by 90. E is therefore going to be equal to 1. Okay, that's it for learning how to solve a proportion or write an equivalent fraction. For now, anyways, we'll be coming back to it later in the video. Now let's look at unit rates. So unit rates, first we should talk about rates. Rates are when you have comparison of two different things with different units of measurements. We have 800 words, 12 minutes, two different units, words, minutes. Ducks for $23.60, that is ducks and dollars. And chairs and rows, dollars and pairs of jeans. So you can see in each of those examples there are different units. That's what makes them rates. Now what we want to do when we want to get a unit rate means one of the terms in the rate is reduced to 1. Okay? One term is reduced to 1. So, and the way we usually say that term that's reduced to 1 is we say per minute. You can see per duck. Each row. Each is another word we could use. Per, each. These are words that show us you've reduced one of the terms to 1. Now, the problem that students have is that they know they have to divide to get the answer, but they divide the wrong term by the wrong term. So, for example, in this question, it says 800 words in 12 minutes. What is the words per minute? What is the thing that's being reduced to 1? It's per minute that we want to reduce to 1. That means I must divide by the number of minutes. See the number of minutes up here and the number of words. In order to get the answer, I have to do 800 divided by 12. This is minutes. This is words. Whatever I want to reduce to 1 is what I have to divide by. So 800 divided by 12. And we end up getting a decimal, so we get 66.66666. And what is that? 66.666 words per minute. Okay, and the pattern is here. See, this was minutes in the denominator of the fraction. And that's what was reduced to 1. And then this was words. It was in the numerator, and that's the first term. All right, let's try it with this next one here. I want you to think real quickly, how do I find this answer? Which number is going to be divided by which number? Well, I'm trying to reduce ducks to 1, which means I have to divide by the number of ducks. And so I get $23.60 divided by 8. 23.6 divided by 8, and we get $2.95 per duck. Now, quick thing you can know to remember when you're working with money, if you want to know how much per item is, how much per duck, how much per car, how much per pencil, how much per phone, whatever it might be, then you always put the money on the top and the items at the bottom. And you can see that pattern still holds that we just saw in the previous question. What was reduced to 1s? Ducks was reduced to 1s, and dollars is here. Okay. Two more like this. If you understand this, feel free to skip ahead in the video a little bit. If not, then make sure you follow along with these examples. So it says here 351 chairs and 27 rows. How many chairs in each row? Each row means row is being reduced to 1. Which means I must divide by the number of rows. So I get 351 divided by 27. And when I do that, I get 13 chairs in each row. $37.29 for 2 pairs of jeans. What am I trying to reduce to 1? I'm trying to find the cost of each pair of jeans. So jeans is being reduced to 1, so I'm going to divide by the number of jeans. And again, it's a money question, so you put the money at the top if you want to find out how much each item costs. And so when we do 37.29 divided by 2, we get $18.645. and we can just leave it like that. It's just fine. Per gene. Now in the store, you know they're going to round up. All right, so that is the cost per gene. So that handles the pre-skills. Let's look at a couple applications of it. This is very much like what we just did. So if I have 12.5 ounces a bag of Doritos for $3.79 or 3-ounce bag for $1, the question is, which is a better deal? And the way you find this out is you want to find out which bag has the cheaper cost per ounce. And so if we're finding the per ounce, then we would simply do $3.79 divided by 12.5. And we do 3.79 divided by 12.5. And we get 0.3032. And this is a money amount per ounce. And if we want to find out for this bag here, it's $1 and divided by the number of ounces. And when we do $1 divided by 3, we get 0.333 and on per ounce. And so which one ends up being cheaper? Well, this one is cheaper, not by much, but it is a little bit cheaper. Now the other way you could do this is if you switch and you do 12.5 divided by 3.79 and 3 divided by 1, as in $1. But if you do this, now your answer has a different meaning, and this is important for us to explore. If I do 12.5 divided by 3.79, well, you see now dollars has been reduced to 1. And so what I'd be finding here is how many ounces I'm getting per dollar. So I get 3, for this one I get 3.2981, 53, we'll stop there, ounces per dollar. And in this one I do 3 divided by $1, and I get 3 divided by $1, and I get 3. Oh, yeah, 3. All right, so 3 ounces per dollar. And so which one is a better deal? Well, the answer is going to be the same, because clearly this one establishes the better deal, but we have to interpret the results differently. In this one, the amount of ounces we get for each dollar is more. So while this one we're looking while in this one here we're looking for a lower value, the lower cost per ounce. In this one here we're looking for a higher value, a greater number of ounces per dollar. Okay, and all of these questions, and then make sure you've got them all done, can be completed either way. You just have to make sure that you interpret them correctly, right? The pattern is as follows. If I divide by 12.5, I divide it by ounces, then ounces has been reduced to 1. And this unit goes here. Here, if I divide by the number of dollars, then it's per dollar. And this unit goes here. This is ounces. And so you can see this value is in ounces. All right, so you should be able to do that without much difficulty. Make sure you come back to these examples. This example I just did here, in order to review. And now we can move on to a couple of problems like this that were in your homework. Caleb drives 3 hours at 15 miles per hour. How far does he travel? So we know for 3 hours he does 15 miles. How far does he travel? Well, then that's simply a matter of, for 3 hours, 15 miles each hour, so we have to multiply. We get 3 times 15 and we get 45 miles. All right, Larissa buys 5 hats at $9.99, 5 times $9.99, and you're going to get $49.95. Okay, that's how much it costs. That's how much he spent. All right, so then now we can look at the next two questions, which put together the idea of unit rates and what we just did with Caleb and Larissa there. It says Jesus bought 3 pairs of jeans for $71.40. How much would he need to pay for 8 pairs of jeans? First, you could find the unit rate, this is suggesting, and then using the unit rate, we can find the cost per 8 jeans. So if we want to find the cost per jeans, what do we have to do? Well, we do the cost, which is $71.40, and we divide it by 3. And we get $23.80. And that is the cost per jean. Now, if there's 8 pairs, that's where this comes into effect, and we multiply 23.8 times 23.80 times 8, and we get $190.40. Okay, so you can see how we did that. Let's do this next one here. Morgan scored 41 points in 3 games. How many points would you expect him to make in 11-game season? So it says first, let's find the unit rate, points per game. So if it's points per game, we're reducing games to 1. So we do 41 divided by 3. And we get 13.66666, on and on and on. So that's the unit rate. The unit rate is points per game. And now we want to find out points in 11 games, and so we would take this value that we had here and we would multiply it by 11. And we would get 150.3326. Okay, and we would round it. He would get approximately 150 points in 11 games. All right, so I want to show you actually another way that we could answer both of these kinds of questions, 26 and 27. It's going to be useful as we continue in this video. So I'm just going to erase this really quickly, and then let's look at these questions again. So if we look at this question here, it says 3 pairs of jeans for $71.40. The strategy we used here initially is called a unit rate strategy, or I call it a unit rate strategy. You find the unit rate, then you multiply. Another strategy we can use is solving a proportion. You see, when we have here 3 pairs of jeans for $71.40, we could write that as a ratio. And the ratio would be 3 colon 71.4. And as I've told you in class when we did this unit in the first semester, we want to label. So the J represents jeans. There's 3 pairs of jeans. The 71.40 is the dollar amount. Once I've written my ratio, I can now write, I'm now going to write a proportion. To set it up, I'm going to write an equal sign, a space, a colon, a space, and then I'm going to label. And you might remember that. Hopefully you do. Okay? And when I label, I'm making sure that my labels here match the labels over here. And once I've done that, I can now put into my proportion the value that I've been given in the question. And so it says the cost of 8 pairs of jeans is what I'm trying to find. And so I've been told there are 8 pairs of jeans. So I can substitute that value in 8 for the jeans. Now this is a proportion. I can write it as a fraction. 3 over 71.4 equals to 8 over x blank, what we're trying to find here. All right, and then I can do what we learned a little bit earlier. We can do the cross multiply, and I get 3x is equal to 8 times 71.4. 3x is equal to, and now I can do the multiplication, 8 times 71.4, and we get 571.20. Oh, sorry, I don't need that yet. And then now I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And x is going to give me $190.4666. All right, so that is the cost of 8 genes, right? And it should be the exact same or very, very close, and maybe it's off a little bit because of like rounding. Should be the same answer that we got before. Yeah, it's a little off. You can see that this one has about 6 cents more, and that's just because when I did this division, it didn't round as much as when we answered the question before. Okay, but you can use either method for solving it. Let's see this. Let's do it one more time. With question 27, it's 41 points in 3 games, so we can write it as a ratio, 41 to 3. And the 41 is the points, and the 3 is the games. I then write equals, colon, a space, colon, space, points, games. Which information was I given? I was given 11 games. I'm trying to find the points. That's my x. I can then write my fractions. 41 over 3 is equal to x over 11. I can draw my cross, and that tells me what has to multiply by what. 3x is equal to 11 times 41. And 11 times 41 is going to give me 451. So 3x is equal to 451. I need to divide both sides by 3. And when I do 451 divided by 3, I get x is equal to 150.33333, and I can round down. X is equal to 150 points, and you'll see it's the same answer that we got before. So you can use either method to solve these kinds of problems, and you'll be seeing several of these kinds of problems in the review that you're going to do for your quiz. Question 29. I'm not going to do the whole thing for you. I just want you to I want you to make sure you do it if you haven't done it already. And if you've done it and you didn't do it correctly, I want you to go and fix it. When we talk about speed, speed is usually either miles in the US or kilometers per hour. Gas mileage is gallon per mile. And the unit paid for gas, well, that's going to be dollars per gallon. Okay, so you can use that. Oh, sorry, this should be miles per gallon, not gallon per mile. Miles per gallon. Okay, and you can use this to solve the questions for number 29. And then here are some of the questions. You did these questions for homework, or you assigned them, and I saw several of you had incorrect answers. So I just wanted to go over it really quickly. 190 quarts of ice cream in 2 hours. How many could be made in 12 hours? Think about what we just did. 190 to 2. The 190 represents quarts. The 2 represents hours. I can then write QH here. Space, colon, space. And now what can I substitute? I can substitute in 12. Get 190 over 2 is equal to x over 12. 2x, right? Because I'm cross multiplying. 2x is equal to 12 times 190. And 12 times 190 is going to give us 2,280. 2x is equal to 2,280. I divide both sides by 2. Divide both sides by 2, and x is going to give me 1,140. And that is 1,140 quarts of ice cream. Okay, and the other way you could solve that problem is if you found out how many quarts they make in an hour. So you would do 190 divided by 2, And when you do 190 divided by 2, you get 95. And then you would do 12 times 95. And you would get 1,140 like we just did. All right, so that's the first part of it. What about what's the rate per day? Well, in this, you have to figure out how many hours in a day, 24 hours. And so you would repeat this process, but you would change this 12 to 24 and repeat the process and solve. Or you could repeat this process, but you would change the 12 to 24. Okay, so you can see how you could use either method to solve that one as well. All right, so let's look at the next one. A Ferris wheel can accommodate 60 people in 20 minutes. How many people could ride the Ferris wheel in 6 hours? What was the rate per hour? All right, so in this one, see, that's tricky because it does minutes and hours. So I can't do, for example, 60 colon 20 equals to blank space blank, like this, people, minutes, and you'll see the problem in a moment, people and hours? No, I can't do that. I have to have minutes over here. The units have to be the same, right? When I create the proportion. And so what we can do is we have to figure out how many minutes are in 6 hours. And we can do that by doing 6 times 60. And we find out that there are 360 minutes in 6 hours. And now we can do what we were just trying to do, because we can replace here 360 and then solve for P. All right, how about for the next one? I'll leave you to work that one out on your own. There will be an answer key posted shortly. The bakers at Healthy Bakery can make 240 bagels in 10 hours. How many bagels can they make in 16 hours? What was the rate per hour? Again, set it up. 240, 10. What's the 240 represent? Bagels. What's the 10 represent? H, hours. Space, colon, space, B, H. Which value do I know? They told us 16 hours. I know H, and I can solve for B. What was the rate per hour? Well, then it's just asking you for a unit rate when you're doing that part of the question, right? Now, you could also use the unit rate to solve right from the beginning, because the other way we've learned to do this, 240 divided by 10, and we get 24. That's our unit rate. That's per hour, bagels per hour. And then if we wanted to answer this 16-hour question, we would do the 24 times 16. Okay, same two different methods for solving the same questions. All right, so this one, a ratio of boys to girls is 3 to 2. If there are 12 boys, how many girls are there? See, this is the kind of question where, if you have to choose between the two methods you've been taught, the ratio is going to be a little bit easier. So if we do 3 to 2, then that's boys to girls. And there are 12 boys, how many girls are there? Then we're going to get, we have to do our space, colon, space, B and G, and there are 12 boys. So now we set it up and we can solve, okay? And yeah, the next few questions are very similar. I am going to add just one question here really quickly, because you need to know how to do this kind of question as well. So let's say, for example, the ratio, let's keep this part here, the ratio of boys to girls is 3 to 2. And the class has 15 students. Okay, so we should maybe say in a class. All right, sound good? In a class, the ratio of boys to girls is 3 to 2, and the class has 15 students. Then the question is, how many boys and girls are there? Okay, and to answer this kind of question, what you have to realize is that when they gave you the 15, they gave you the total, right? And so you can't just do this. 3 to 2 is equal to space, colon, space. See, this is boys, we said. This is girls, this is boys, and this is girls. Where would the 15 go? It doesn't have anywhere to go if you set it up like that. And so what you have to realize that when you do this is that this is what we call a part-to-part ratio. And what we need is a part-to-whole ratio. And so if we think about this as a part-to-part ratio 3:2, if there were 3 boys and 2 girls, what would be the whole? Well, boys plus girls, 3 plus 2 gives me 5. And so I can rewrite this part-to-part ratio as 2 part-to-whole ratios, right? How many boys are there out of 5 people? There are 3. So this is the whole, 3 boys out of a whole of 5. And then how many girls are there? There's 2 girls out of a whole of 5. Now you can see we have a part-to-whole ratio, and that's what we need to be able to solve this, because this 15 students is the whole number of students. So for example, now I could write 3 to 5, and this is boys and this is whole, is equal to space colon space boys to whole, and I can substitute in now 15, and I can solve for how many boys are in the class. Same thing with the girls. 2 to 5, girls whole equals space colon space girls whole. The real whole is 15, and then I could solve for x. Okay, so this question here is very, very important that you're able to do this kind of question, as it will come up definitely in the future. All right, so I'm sorry this video is so long, but lots to cover, and hopefully you got whatever you needed from it.